The following video is not a guide on how to play Shuriken or whatnot. It is mainly my experiences and overall opinion on Shuriken from a person who has never touched Shuriken ever since his release. You could take it as such, however, if you want to, but I advise doing so since I am not a dedicated Shuriken main. Either way, enjoy! Yes, Shuriken. The Thieves Den fighter that was released in April of 2023 is a fighter all about speed, stealth, and shurikens. What else did you expect? He is also the second ranged fighter to be a part of the Thieves Den faction, with the other being Slingshot. But we don't need to do some sort of comparison of the two in any way at the very least. I guess let's cut to the chase and immediately break down the stats here. Shuriken has 75 HP and 50 shield, tying him the lowest amount of overall bulk at 125, which is the same as Biograph of all things. However, low bulk does fit his intended playstyle, with being some sort of a sneaky flanking character that utilizes his high damage involving the enemy's backs and his high mobility that allows him to access such approaching options against the enemy. He also has some unique properties associated with him like Antiheal, which make him stand out with unique traits and advantages he could give to his team via his complex kit. This reminds me, let's just waste no time and immediately get into his kit. Shuriken's passive, as fast as the wind, gives Shuriken a 20% boost to haste and bounce. This bonus lowers by 1% for every bit of damage Shuriken's HP takes until it regenerates after not being hit for a few seconds. This passive also grants Shuriken the ability to wall perch by pressing jump next to a wall, which allows him to stick on a wall for a maximum of 3 seconds before being detached or if he jumps off the wall, so that's also cool. Shuriken's M1, Stars of the Storm, charges up Shurikens to a maximum of 3 to throw in front of him. The Shurikens pierce through things and do 8 damage each and 10 damage to the hidden enemy's back. Shuriken also gets a tiny bit of bound when charging the Shurikens, limiting his jump height, and has 15 ammo for when he fires. The Shurikens also count as projectiles that go insanely fast with a very low lifespan, making Shuriken go into more mid-range combat because of that. Also, the charge time of the Shurikens is very fast, which makes it an incentive to charge up the Shurikens. Shuriken's M2, Stab of the Betrayer, is a chargeable attack that could propel Shuriken forward with a lingering melee hitbox. The attack does 15 damage if it hits and does 25 damage if it hits an opponent's back, along with applying anti-heal for 3 seconds if a backstab was hit and slowing down the target based on if they hit the back or not. The longer the charge is, the more Shuriken gets sent forward instead of doing more damage. Shuriken's Q, Traverse the Horizon, allows Shuriken to grapple onto any surface really. Shuriken will immediately dash to it and perch at the end, or he can press a jump midway through the grapple to keep the momentum from the initial grapple to go flying in that direction. If you get hit during the grapple, Shuriken will cancel the grapple and go nowhere. The grapple also has a range of 200 studs for some reason, and pretty much locks Shuriken in place for a second before grappling. Shuriken's E, Illusions of the Smoke, spawns a clone of Shuriken to walk forward, copy jumps, and even shoot your primary when you do while staying in place, with its Shurikens doing 5 damage. The clone has 30 HP as well, and Shuriken slows down immediately when spawning the clone. If Shuriken recasts this ability, Shuriken warps to the clone's position, causing a small explosion that does 20 damage and inflicts slow and bound on all targets hit by it. You could also hold E to make the clone transform into a teammate before spawning, so that's also an option you could do. This move has a lot of things going on, so it's hard to explain this in a cohesive manner like this. Shuriken's finisher, Guillotine Blossom, launches Shuriken into the air and spawns 5 rotating Shurikens around him that turn counterclockwise and slowly fire at his crosshair aim over a period of time. The spinning Shurikens do 8 damage each, which rack up fast, and the Shurikens thrown do 15 damage and apply 3 seconds of anti-heal each. During this finisher, Shuriken can still use his abilities freely to add more damage into the mix. Alright, you got all that info? Good, because now we are gonna kind of break it all down now after I talk about Antiheal, or Antiheal, or whatever you want to call it. Honestly, I could care less. I have no clue. Antiheal is exactly in the name. It disrupts HP healing both passively and by healers. If it's put onto an enemy, that enemy cannot be healed by any means necessary. If Antiheal is applied to a healer, that healer cannot heal any HP until the Antiheal has worn off or it has been cleansed. Just putting this in here just so you can understand the entire use of Antiheal, since it's a bit of an odd thing at times. Alright, we can finally move on now. As fast as the wind is a main feature of Shuriken. An extra speed and jump boost is huge for such a frail fighter, especially when he needs those boosts to successfully dodge hits and make him as hard to hit as possible, especially when he starts bunny hopping. While the 50 shield does make it a little limiting, this tool gives Shuriken way more options to move freely thanks to the extra jump boost. The perching is also pretty unique for movement mix-ups in fights, or to simply stall on a wall for a period of time. However, I found perching to be pretty awkward at times, as it just feels like a magnetic force against every single damn surface in the game, which can feel somewhat disorienting, especially when I might press spacebar more than once. Stars of the Storm is such a strange move to me, however. While the damage, extra back damage, and overall lifespan of the shurikens are fine, the fact this move works as a projectile is fairly interesting. Due to this, you might need some sort of timing when firing this, as mid-range opponents won't instantly be hit by this attack, which gives some sort of skill challenge to the Shuriken player. The move also has a fast charge up, which makes Shuriken able to fire out free Shurikens fairly quickly, and even be able to bypass the bound it gives with proper timing. Despite the projectile tracking nature of it, this M1 is absolutely amazing for Shuriken's flanking playstyle, and can rack up tons of damage fairly quickly. Stab of the Betrayer though? Oh my god, this move is crazy. So if you're behind an opponent, you can instantly press M2 to do 25 damage and apply Antiheal along with slow as well, just to make sure. You can also charge it for an easier time hitting enemies, but still, the amount of reward this move gives is insane. This could also be applied to tech like trick stabbing, which involves flicking the camera to hit someone's back much easier to consistently hit the anti-heal. Even without the backstab, this tool gives some close range versatility and firepower to Shuriken's kit, along with the dash, making it a solid option to close some distance. This option is an absolute game changer, especially against fighters like Vinestaff or more bulky fighters like Katana, who really appreciate the tons of healing they could get. It's a defining aspect of Shuriken's kit. From a central tool to another, Traverse the Horizon might be the most fun skill a fighter ever has. The grapple allows for great rollout options and instantly gets Shuriken into the front lines or ensure him access to a back line as long as he hits a surface that could get him to the direction. The grapple cancelling though, oh my god, the grapple cancelling makes this move a literal gem and one of the most fun tools in the entire game. Due to retaining momentum, this move makes Shuriken go flying with this move, or allow Shuriken's movement to become very quick to engage in the fights easier thanks to how versatile the mobility is. While the cooldown doesn't make it a fully spammable move to use, its use is undeniably fun as hell, and it gives Shuriken many options to follow his game plan or to simply go around the map and do whatever the hell he wants. Just don't take damage and you'll be fine. Illusions of the Smoke is a bit of an odd move to talk about. The clone's projectiles aren't too effective, but it's great when spamming down a choke point or straight path for some extra damage, but you would usually use it as a mobility or distraction tool, as teleporting to the clone gives some great ways to escape threats or to distract fire sphinx spawning it. The offensive use cases of this ability are surprisingly great though, as teleporting to the clone can allow Shuriken to get high damage on the targets and allows him to apply tons of pressure along with his stab for a quick kill. This explosion is also notable, as not only does it help immensely if a melee threat gets slowed, but the explosion can help deboard skateboard, which is an absolutely huge plus for Shuriken's survivability. The ability to make the clone a teammate isn't too helpful, but hey, you can find a use for more distracting if needed. It's a great offensive and defensive tool for Shuriken to convey the stealthy flanker playstyle, and allows him to really make better getaways or as a way to close distance and start fights with close range pressure. Guillotine Blossom is a very destructive finisher to use. The spinning shurikens all have active hitboxes, which gives it great crowd control against bulky targets and can dispose of frailer targets and can even scare off fighters like Biograph due to its damage output. The anti-heal attributes make this tool an amazing way to stop healers and conquer holds for your team to take full advantage of, and combined with the throwing of shurikens, it makes this finisher not only a great tool to break bulky fighters, but a tool to exploit healers and make them have an incredibly rough time trying to live. Combining this ult with all the mobility Shuriken gets and having access to M1 and M2 during it makes this a high damage output option that can help with any scenario. That being said, use this tool mainly against bulky targets on Annihilate, as using this in a crowd on Annihilate is highly risky, since dying in that mode is more dangerous and Shuriken wouldn't want to get damaged a lot during it. With that being said, this finisher is an amazing tool to further push Shuriken's utility and his insane damage output, especially as a flanker, to surprise the opponent. So, Shuriken sounds very fun on paper, right? Well, yeah, he does. And in practice, Shuriken is exactly that. Fun! His entire flanking kit gives him a unique role to bully backliners and healers while using the most of his mobility to evade hits and eventually get away to give his team a huge opening due to anti-heal and raw damage output. Getting used to his kit was a bit of a weird experience, as either due to the amount of healer trauma or just not playing a lot of ranged characters, trying to go for flanks wasn't on my mind too much and really more or less felt like an afterthought at times, or straight up not even doing it and trying to aggro the opponent head on. Thankfully, I did get used to going for a more backline approach on the enemy, or striking a balance between handling the backliners and helping against the threats in the front line, since Shuriken's damage output is just that high. And hell, Shuriken's matchup against the backliner fighters like Vinestaff and Hyperlaser are heavily in his favor due to his way better close quarters options and being able to exploit his mobility to the max. And even against some other fighters like Sword, Rocket, or Banhammer, Shuriken can have a decent time dealing with them, albeit a Banhammer Q can be very deadly to Shuriken, since Banhammer can potentially catch up and force Shuriken into a one-on-one scenario. Shuriken really just uses the map and terrain to his fullest advantages to flank effectively and help his team with anti-heal, among other stuff, which makes him a strong fighter to have. Maps with alternate routes like Swordfight on the Heights, hiding platforms like Baguio Skate Park, were great ways to rush into a backline with grapple cancels like Chaos Canyon and Iron Cafe, are prime maps where Shuriken could put his flanking game plan into action or just generally help out a ton. Yeah, some other maps aren't too promising to Shuriken, but he doesn't have a fully map-dependent playstyle and is honestly very flexible on a ton of maps, unlike a certain fighter who wields a gun. With all being said, however, a fighter like Shuriken is not without faults. Well, it's mainly two faults. The first fault is his long cooldowns, because holy hell, this man has long cooldowns. The M2's 6-second cooldown isn't bad at all, which allows Shuriken to spam this on any battle he is fighting, but dear lord, the cooldown for his Q and E are 14 seconds and 12 seconds respectively, and the E cooldown starts when the clone dies, despawns, or teleports to it, so it could be confusing to time it. This made Shuriken somewhat feel like ability management, as these tools are essential to his rollouts and escapes, so being caught with these cooldowns up can likely lead you to a death sentence. And it also means you shouldn't be like me and throw out the Q for short bursts of movement, even though it worked for me. It's an incredibly stupid thing to do, but I found it fun as hell, so yeah, that too. Point is, he needs good usage of when his abilities can get the most value, or just life and death scenarios. The second fault, and his even bigger problem, is his frailty, which is pretty expected for Shuriken. 75 HP and 50 shield is deceptively low and makes Shuriken heavily rely on his high mobility and his passive to effectively dodge attacks, especially when 50 shield can only help you against so much. Don't forget the fact that some moves quite literally screw you over, like Sword's Empowered E or Katana's Grapple, in which those moves completely tank your gameplay or flat out kill you if they connect due to how much damage the combos could do to you. This obviously shows that Shuriken should be played, well, very carefully, and should have escape options at the ready due to how frail he is in almost every scenario. It's even better when the fighters that can take advantage of this bulk also include fighters that are pretty efficient in shutting down Shuriken in general. While Shuriken does have a couple of positive or equal matchups, some like Skateboard are fast enough to avoid your Shurikens effectively and shutting you down off-board due to his combos dealing around 60 damage, which forces you to play even more patiently with a team or going straight for a D-ward with a clone or backstab, which is really hard to do for me. Same thing applies to Boombox, as his shield and knockback are an annoyance for Shuriken to deal with, as his E blocks practically anything, and trying to engage close range against Boombox is pretty much a death sentence unless he is very low, which is a hard situation to even come by as Shuriken. But you might ask, Do these setbacks of frailty and long cooldowns offset the things I like about Shuriken? Do these big issues really make Shuriken a polarizing character? Hell no! Shuriken is fun as all hell to play as, and I really don't care if people find him annoying, because man, it's a blast playing as him. Don't get me wrong, he can be annoying at times to play as due to his health, but once you get into your game plan of flanking or doing a mixture of flanking and other styles, Shuriken is ultimately satisfying. Landing backstabs, grapple cancelling, maximizing the finisher, being able to get away from enemies, it's all an exhilarating experience. The ways he has to deal with fighters are pretty interesting, and thankfully there was a pinned guide in the Shuriken Bodcom channel, because without that, I would have no clue what the hell I was doing right or wrong in some matchups and how I can handle certain threats as Shuriken. And it also made me feel insanely stupid. Wait, I thought the threshold was 25%. What? Have I been lying to myself? Or did they buff it and I just don't know? I thought the threshold was like 25%. This is 33%, right? Yeah, because Shuriken's HP is like 75. Yeah, what the hell? That is so weird. I've been lying to myself. Rockets aren't as fast as Shurikens. Begin arcing downwards at 60 studs? What? Wait, the rockets have a arc? In a way, Shuriken is probably the fighter you grow the most with over time. It's about optimizing approaches, movement, and overall aim with projectiles among other things, which shows that the ceiling for this character is pretty high. Hell, I've seen a few better Shuriken players in action, and the things they do are absolutely insane to me and almost somewhat inspire me in a way because of how they make Shuriken into an agile, aggressive mosquito that is capable of dishing fast damage and unpredictable movement to make it incredibly hard to hit him. It sounds kinda stupid to say this, but it generally makes me want to play Shuriken more and improve with him as a result of how fun he is to use and the limits he can reach as a character. The fun of him keeps me playing and improving. I am surprisingly glad I was able to love Shuriken like this, since at first I found him to be an annoying character due to his projectiles and weird kit that's filled with movement and close range options. But now, I think his kit has amazing synergy of his hit and run flanking game plan that makes him hard to hit, dish a lot of damage, and be a glass cannon of sorts. I will probably continue to play Shuriken more and more over time due to this, and even though it now seems I am just rambling, it's mainly because I just really love this character's style now. So overall, Shuriken is a character I think is fun and gives a pure dopamine rush. Or in better terms, Shuriken is a weird character.